We're all on our own path. We're all on our own healers. From the people, for the people. Smoke of SNPD.
Today, Smoke Signals reporter Tom Kiefer speaks with Staff Sergeant Dave Smoke, spokesperson for the Six Nations Police Department.
That's Staff Sergeant Dave Smoke.
Okay, and I assume it's just spelt the way
S-M-O-K-E.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Dave. So I guess I'm just looking to get some information in regards to the recent raids that have happened at Six Nations of cannabis dispensaries. But first, I'm just wondering I just want to get a few things straight in terms of how the department operates and who it's accountable to, or what rules or what system it follows.
Okay.
So could you maybe explain to me how how does the Six Nations, the Six Nations Police Department, are you OPP?
Right.
Are you, or
no,
how
we are not. We're not part of the OPP. We are our own standalone First Nations police service. What that means is we have our own police commission that we operate under that looks after us, and then we operate as our own police service itself. For any functions that because we're a small police service, First Nations police service, any functions that we don't have in our service, say for example ident or canine unit, we then reach out to other police services such as the OPP to assist us. So that's about as far as it goes, as asking for assistance from other police services for things that we currently don't have within our service. Other than that, we are a 24-hour First Nations police service.
So would it be correct to say then that the OPP does the OPP give you directives to say, hey, you should go look at this or go do that, or is that not on the?
That would be more for a First Nation. An OPP administered First Nations, and which there are several of them in the province of Ontario that still operate under the OPP. We are our own autonomous First Nation standalone police service, so the OPP has no influence or directive towards us.
Okay, and that's true for other policing agencies as well, like the RCMP or CSIS or whoever else?
Yep. They may come and ask for cooperation from us or assistance with us for different investigations, and we do cooperate with other police services and other federal agencies within the province. It's just a matter of we are our own First Nations police service on the Six Nations territory, and there's other police. There's actually 9, I believe, in the province of Ontario that are First Nations standalone police services.
And so the body that does oversight, or that sort of could you explain how the police is it the police commission that provides oversight or directives to you in terms of what the community finds an appropriate decision for enforcement, or how does what's the relationship of the police commission to the police?
Well, the police commission, they are the oversight of the police service, of the police chief. So they are our police chief's boss, basically. They aren't able to direct us for anything operational. That's done by our police chief and deputy chief. The commission has no influence to direct us as a police service as to what to do enforcement-wise or operationally. That's done through the various statutes in Canada. We follow, obviously, all the federal statutes within the country of Canada.
Okay, so how does it work then in regards to your enforcement of, say, contraband tobacco issues?
Contraband tobacco issues, our police service has taken the issue that because we are a First Nations territory, we do support, obviously, tobacco trade within First Nations communities. So our police chief has taken the position that we do not and will not enforce the tobacco issue on the territory. Once they leave the territory, if other agencies off the territory enforce it, that's out of our hands. But on the territory, we do not enforce the contraband tobacco issue on the territory here.
And is that a decision that the chief made, or that the police commission made?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure if it came from the chief himself or it was a decision made by the chief and the commission. You'd have to talk to them about that. I can't speak to that right now.
So how is the cannabis different from the tobacco? Because the people that are operating the dispensaries are saying that it's a First Nations right issue, that they have an Aboriginal right, or that it's medicine, it's helping, it's healing, it's something that's being legalized, or their position is that it's a rights issue for First Nations. So I'm just wondering how come it's different in terms of the interpretation over tobacco than cannabis?
The only thing I can speak to that with our investigations and our enforcement is the fact that our community has been very outspoken with saying we do not want any type of drugs or any mind-changing substances like cannabis in the territory, around the territory. So our community has made it very clear that they don't want anything to do with cannabis on the territory, which then in turn has caused us to say, well, it actually is illegal still until it's made legal. It's still illegal, cannabis. So that's where we're taking our ideas from, is that the community doesn't want illegal drugs here or illicit drugs here, and that's our mandate for enforcing.
Are you aware of the survey that the Six Nations Elected Council did on the question of cannabis, and the survey that the Green Health for Six Nations did on that matter?
I'm aware that there was some surveys done. I'm not sure by who all they were done by. I do know that I think Six Nations did have a community meeting maybe about a year ago approximately, and the message then was fairly clear from the community, was well attended, and the community's position was they did not want any type of cannabis drug on the territory. So that was kind of the message that we took to heart as well as a police service.
Right. This was there was a Six Nations Band Council survey that went out that had 331 respondents, and a majority of them said that they favored Six Nations becoming involved in medicinal cannabis. And then there was another survey that was carried out in December of 2017 that had 731 respondents, 626 of them who provided their status numbers to give their identity.
Okay.
And that survey resulted in 96.5% saying that they believe that Six Nations had a sovereign right to determine its own path regarding cannabis, and over 90% saying that they supported having dispensaries on the territory.
Okay, so yeah, that's I don't dispute that. I'm sure that did happen. The numbers are what they are. However, as far as dispensaries go, like we say, the council gave a survey that talked about medicinal dispensaries. And that's what, if and when cannabis does become legalized in the province of Ontario, there would be regulations that we as a police service would likely enforce and follow as well. I can't see what those are right now, but there would be regulations that we would take under consideration as well as far as enforcement goes.
Now, which set of regulations would you enforce? Like, would you enforce the Canadian ones, or the ones passed by Band Council, or, as in the case of tobacco, the sort of status quo approach or the community consensus around tobacco?
I can't really say exactly, but I would think I could take the position. I think that our police service would adopt whatever the Canadian regulations are across the province, across the country rather, as far as enforcement for cannabis, because we would have to follow. We couldn't just let these dispensaries pop up. We would have to make sure that they are regulated. I think that's the position Band Council may be looking at. I can't speak for them, but if it does become legal, there may be some changes made. But until then, unfortunately, cannabis is illegal, and that's the position we're taking. Is they are illegal at this time.
What is your position on the methadone clinics that have been springing up around the territory? Those are completely unregulated as well. There's no.
I don't have any information about the methadone clinics. I can't comment on that, unfortunately.
But so you don't. But the Six Nations Police Department doesn't consider what they're doing to be an issue.
I can't comment on that. I don't have the information about the methadone clinics.
Okay, so I would appreciate if there's somebody that would have some information about that I could just ask some questions.
you have to contact Chief Liquors about that. Perhaps he might be able to answer. Maybe able to answer that question.
Okay, so theoretically speaking, here, if there's a disconnect between the people in the community who seem to favor access to cannabis and who use it according to this survey, to resolve a number of health problems or to use it in different ways, and let's say the community's for it, and you guys are enforcing the Canadian laws that are saying that it's illegal. At one point, the community there was a similar thing going on with tobacco, where you changed. I assume you changed your enforcement of Canadian laws to decide that you were no longer going to enforce the law on tobacco because of the political consensus or view in the community. What would it take what would it take, and how could the people in the community convince the Six Nations Police Department to not to raid these dispensaries?
I'm not sure exactly. I know that it has to become clear to the police service that this is what the community wants. Right now, like I say, with the surveys that we've seen and the community meetings that we've seen, as I say, there's one about a year or so ago that was well attended. The community made it clear to the police, and we felt that was what the message was they did not support any type of cannabis activity on the territory. So that's where we've taken our enforcement from, and our mandate from, to say that we will continue to enforce these illegal dispensaries. Now, if the tide changes, cannabis becomes legal within the country, within the province, that may change things. I can't speak for that right now, but say until it becomes legal, unfortunately, it is illegal, and we will have to keep enforcing, raiding these dispensaries.
Do you see there being any, I don't know. Do you see that cannabis is a harmful substance in the community?
I don't see it as being a harmful substance. I think there are some medicinal purposes for it, possibly, but they would again have to be regulated medicinal through a doctor, not just for sale. There's differences between recreational versus medicinal, and that's what I think would be made clear to us as a police service before we could change our opinion on what we're going to take as far as enforcement action.
And does the Six Nations Police Department, do you guys do drug testing yourselves, or have policies in terms of your own force?
Our own police officers?
Yeah.
There's nothing in place right now. No.
Okay. And how do you respond to there's been a criticism that I've heard raised in regards to the raids that Six Nations Police carried out on the dispensaries were done with, like you guys went in with assault rifles and drawn weapons, and put pointed guns at people in the community who were say that what they're doing is medicinal and it's helping, and they're it's part of their approach and understanding of their rights and responsibilities. And there's this heavy-handed and very immediate arrival with drawn weapons. But in the case of other known drug houses in the community, or places selling crack or cocaine or hard drugs, there's no action. There's no action by police on those, and certainly not with going in with drawn weapons.
Only way I can respond to that is to say, with any search warrant that we do, we have certain tactics and certain procedures that we do with every search warrant that we do. To say that we're not acting in other places I can't comment on that, because I'm not going to get into our police tactics, our police procedures, our investigative procedures. But with every search warrant that we do, there is potential for violence. There's potential for weapons to be involved. So every time we do a search warrant, there are certain things that we do a certain way every time. And we do have to make sure that our officers are safe that are conducting the search warrant, and we want to make sure it's as safe and as quick as possible inside whatever the area is that we're searching. So there's certain procedures there and certain tactics that we use as a police service.
Okay, and what about the issue of there's a Trudeau's announced legalization. There's dispensaries that are opening up all over Canada. There's literally hundreds of them, and they're tolerated in different ways. Sometimes there's raids, sometimes there's not. A lot of them are open. And now with these by my count, there's been, I guess, with the raids, there was the raids at the medicinal dispensary on Highway 54, and then Mohawk Medicine in November, and then Green Health in January, and now 2 raids this month on King Leaf. That's a lot of people that are getting charges and potentially criminal records around cannabis, which also means that they won't, according to the Canadian system, be able to participate in the industry if they have criminal charges. Is that a concern at all, that the Six Nations Police is making it so that Six Nations people are not able to participate in this industry as Canada is legalizing it?
I have no comment on that at all. Cannabis is illegal, and we are dealing with it as we get the information in. We're investigating. If those people happen to be in those areas when the search warrants are being conducted, we have no say on who's there and who's not there, but we will deal with the people that are found within these dispensaries and these places where they're selling cannabis. Whoever's there, we have to deal with. Until it becomes legal, cannabis is illegal. Until it's regulations put in place that we can deal with.
Except in the case of tobacco, because tobacco is illegal, but you guys don't enforce it. Tobacco
is considered a traditional substance, and I can't speak for the Confederacy chiefs, but that may be something you may want to follow up with them, what their position on what cannabis is, because I and the police service are of the opinion that cannabis is a mind-changing drug, and it is illegal in Canada right now. If it becomes legal, things may change. Until then, we have to enforce the fact that it is illegal.
Okay, and is there somebody that I could speak to on the Six Nations, like the police board, that oversight body? Is there?
I'm not sure. You'd have to contact the police commission itself. Other than that,
is Steve Williams still the chair of that, or has that changed?
Yeah, Steve Williams is still the chairperson. Yeah, yeah. If you can contact him if he's willing to talk to you, yeah, or one of the other commission members.
Okay, how would I go about getting the right number to call them?
Let me put you on hold for 1 second. I can try and find that number for you.
Okay,
One
thanks.
second, please. Yep.
This video is brought to you by the 2018 Smoke Signals Indigenous Cannabis Cup, happening May 18th to 21st in Tyendinaga, Mohawk Territory. For tickets, go to indigenouscannabiscup.com.